Her voice echoed through the park as she demanded the immediate removal of a man in a red MAGA hat, whom she called a threat to society. The crowd held its breath as the police arrived, ready to deal with the alleged troublemaker. But no one, neither she nor the onlookers, could have imagined that the threatening man was in fact the one in charge of the entire police force. His next move changed everything, forcing everyone present to rethink their perspectives. It was a warm autumn day. Ronald Carter, a tall man in his 50s with tanned skin and a touch of gray in his hair, sat peacefully on a bench in the city park. His calm expression hinted that the day was going well, a thermos of coffee in one hand and the local newspaper in the other. But of course, the standout accessory was the bright red hat with the letters MAGA emblazoned on it. Walking leisurely down the path was Karen, a woman in her 40s with sharply defined features and perfectly styled hair. She wore a crisp, light blazer, oversized sunglasses, and carried a handbag dangling from her elbow like a model on a runway. Her gaze instantly locked onto Ronald, or, more specifically, his hat. Unbelievable. Such a beautiful place ruined by that, she declared loudly, stopping in front of the bench. Without looking up from his newspaper, Ronald replied with a faint smile, "Thanks for the compliment. It's nice when strangers notice your charisma." Karen scoffed. "Charisma? Is that a joke? I'm talking about your hat. People like you ruin everything good about this country." A few passers-by slowed their steps, curious about the growing tension. A young man with a phone camera stopped nearby, sensing something interesting was about to unfold. Karen wasn't about to back down. She began pacing around the bench like a predator circling its prey. "This is unacceptable. You're just sitting here like it's nothing. Don't you realize your hat is offensive to others?" Still engrossed in his newspaper, Ronald replied calmly, "Ma'am, I'm sitting here because this is a public bench, and the hat is on my head because of the sun. What other nefarious plans have you dreamed up?" The crowd chuckled softly, but Karen wasn't done yet. "Listen, I'm calling the police right now. Your symbolism is a provocation. It's disturbing the peace." At last, Ronald folded his newspaper, looked her in the eyes with a smile, and asked, "Really? The police? Over a hat? Or do you want me to hand over my thermos as evidence of my danger to society?" Karen pulled out her phone and loudly began dictating to the dispatcher. "Yes, I need the police immediately. There's a man here wearing a MAGA hat. He's acting aggressively. Yes, I feel threatened." The crowd froze. Onlookers murmured amongst themselves, some laughing outright. The young man with the camera was now live streaming, narrating the event. "All right, folks, you heard it here first. Karen's calling the cops because a guy is sitting in a park. Stay tuned, this is going to be good." Minutes later, the sound of sirens echoed in the distance. Karen's face lit up with satisfaction. "Well, now we'll deal with people like you," she declared triumphantly. Ronald calmly sipped his coffee from the thermos as the crowd around him grew. A police car pulled up to the park, and 2 officers stepped out. The moment they spotted Ronald, one of them immediately straightened up and saluted. "Good afternoon, Chief. Is everything all right?" Karen's jaw dropped as she looked back and forth between the officers and Ronald. "Chief? This has to be a joke." Ronald stood up, removed his hat, and with a warm smile replied, "No, ma'am, Chief of Police. Did you really call my officers to complain about my hat?" The crowd burst into laughter, some clapping in amusement. The young man with the camera chimed in with his commentary. "Well, folks, you saw it here first. Karen wanted to punish a man for wearing a hat, but turns out she called the cops on their boss. Karen, flustered and desperate to save face, stammered, I didn't know. But still, you should understand that hat offends people." Ronald nodded, placing the hat back on his head. Calmly, he replied, Karen, I'd recommend reading more books and judging people less by their clothing. By the way, it's a beautiful day for reflecting on your priorities." The officers smirked and nodded in agreement. One of them added, "Ma'am, you should head home. There's no violation here." Karen, now red with embarrassment, began to back away. She stumbled slightly, almost falling, which triggered another round of laughter from the crowd. Ronald sat back down on the bench, reopened his newspaper, and said with a chuckle, "You know, Karen, you've made my day a lot more entertaining. Thanks for that." The crowd clapped and cheered as the young man uploaded his video online. Within hours, the footage went viral, with hashtags like #KarenVisChief and #MAGA dominating social media. And Ronald? He remained on the same bench, savoring his coffee and basking in the satisfaction of a small but meaningful victory.